Coming up next on At Your Service, we'll be discussing the role of the pupil personnel worker and how they work to support students and families in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Today on At Your Service, we'll be discussing the role of the pupil personnel worker and how they help students and families in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I first want to thank you guys for having me on today. My name is Laurie Jones. I'm the coordinator of pupil personnel for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. I'm responsible for supervising a great group of leaders. We have 33 pupil personnel workers, or PPWs. We have about 33 PPWs in Anne Arundel County. I supervise them, and we have 1 residency verifier and 5 administrative support staff that I supervise. In order to really talk about kind of what I do, it's really good to kind of start really about what the role of the PPW is. And so the PPW's role, I can really kind of describe it in terms of what we refer to as ARCH. And so ARCH we refer to as advocacy first, and then attendance, residency, custody, and housing. Under housing, we refer to students who are experiencing homelessness, students who are experiencing a housing situation or enrollment situation where they're living with a relative, and so that's a kinship or a hardship enrollment. And so in those terms, those are some students that we would support.
Okay. Thank you.
So can you talk to us a little bit about the educational work experience backgrounds of a pupil personnel worker? Do they just start automatically as PPWs, or is there a trajectory that they're on in terms of their experiences?
That's a great question, Ryan. So PPWs all have master's degrees, and they have to actually have a certification through the Maryland State Department of Education. So they have a specialized training that they have to have. So they have to have a master's degree first, and then they have to have at least 21 credit hours or continuing professional development credits. One of the courses that are required that every PPW has to have is school law, and then they have to have additional credits in courses like multicultural education, counseling, group dynamics. Another course is deliveries model or delivery services of pupil personnel, to name just a few. But they have to have at least 21 credit hours in courses that are kind of counseling related, abnormal psychology, child psychology, to get them training in order to really kind of work with and advocate for student needs.
What are some of the typical jobs that they've had prior to becoming a PPW?
In Anne Arundel County, we kind of come with a mixed bag. So a lot of our PPWs have been previous classroom teachers, have been social workers, but most of ours have been previous school counselors. So if you've been anywhere in the educational field and you feel like your passion really is student services driven, then you would really kind of benefit from exploring getting additional training in exploring this field, because we're really student services driven.
Great, thank you.
So one of the things you discussed at first was the ARCH, the acronym ARCH. And so how do PPWs support attendance?
Wow. That's an even better question, Susan. Thank you for asking that. So attendance, we are one member of the attendance team when it comes to supporting attendance. So attendance really starts at the school level, right? And when PPWs get involved, it becomes schools really look at it. So when it's an attendance issue, schools look at it, there's a chronic attendance and then there's truancy, right? So when the school attendance teams are looking at attendance, the attendance team is looking at the chronic attendance. Those are excused absences and unexcused absences.
Gotcha.
Right? And then when PPWs become involved, they're looking at truancy. Those are the unexcused absences. So PPWs are looking at it more because they're the link between really getting those referrals to families, linking them to the services that maybe families aren't aware of. For example, families might be interested in getting linked with family preservation. That's a service that sometimes we provide for families that maybe are experiencing some difficulties in the home and they may need some additional support. If that's not working, then we might have to refer a family to district court. That's something that the PPW may need to do. If there's a truancy issue. So a truancy is just an unexcused absence that continues over a long period of time that's causing a child to miss school and having a negative academic impact on a child. So that's when a PPW can get involved when it comes to attendance.
Thank you.
And so when they get involved with attendance, the school has done some things ahead of time, so then they're involved with this a group of students who have that truancy. Do they go out to the homes? Do they refer out? Can you talk more about some of the interventions that they might engage in when they get involved with a family?
Sure, there's some home visits that could happen. Parent conferences can happen. Well, sometimes they may refer a family to organizations like Cricket to have a whole family come to a table and have conversations. There is a community conferencing or attendance conferencing where they may have the family and some school personnel come to the table to discuss what some of the concerns are, what some of the barriers are. If a child's not coming to school, what some of those concerns are, or calling or referring a family to different organizations like Thrive may be called to see if they can help a family, or going to the home to see if there's some barriers there, why a child is not coming to school. So there's always some avenues where PPW may help to see what those barriers are, why a child's not coming to school, and what they can do to help before, you know, a district court may have to get involved. But you know, if the school has tried to get involved by sending letters or making phone calls or doing parent conferences, and those haven't resolved the issue of school attendance, and then the PPW gets involved and those interventions haven't resolved the issue, and then you know the last resort is kind of going to court.
And so the intention of the PPW is first to get those resources to try and address what's the underlying issue of why the kid's not coming to school, but they always, in a last resort, can file charges, which is something I know they try to avoid. Correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Good. Thank you.
There's so many reasons, you know, when you talk about the complexity of each case. They can all look very different, but it's great that you try to bring the resources around. Can you talk a little bit about the McKinneyVento Homeless Assistance Act and how the PPW can help, or the schools can help alongside the PPW?
Sure. So the McKinneyVento Homeless Act of 1987 is actually really a safeguard for families and students who are experiencing homelessness. So really just helps them, kind of gives them a protection, right? So it says to any school system anywhere in the country that they are to attend that this is their right, that if I am to become homeless, then you are going to help me become stable in some area in my life, and school is that area in my life. So because we know through research and in other areas that you know, if I become homeless, that I'm also now going to become very transient, right? That school is maybe the only place that I can be stable. That as a school system, we're going to make sure that you can at least be stable here. That I'm going to, as a school system, provide you transportation, so that if you want to stay in your school of origin, that means the school that I first became homeless in, or if now that I'm at a place where I feel like I'm going to be for a while, if I want to go to that school, then you'll provide me transportation to that school. That's my school of now location. That I'll be able to go to that school. That I'll be able to do that. So I'll be able to even enroll in my school of origin or my school of location. That you'll be able to help me do that. That I'll be able to enroll quickly. That I won't be required to have all of the documentation I need. That won't be a barrier for me. That I'll be able to get lunch and breakfast for free. That if I need school supplies, you'll provide that for me. If the school is a uniform school, you'll provide that for me. And that if I'm behind academically, you'll be able to help me with that as well. So it just gives that family or that student that's experiencing homelessness some safeguards in that way.
And that stability is really
exactly.
important. Wow. So just real quick, you know, people talk about, you know, the difference between what is homeless. You know, what does, as this act is enacted, because sometimes I'll find out that people are homeless, but they don't even know they're homeless.
Right. So homeless means this person is lacking a adequate nighttime residence. it's unstable, it's not safe, and it's not regular.
Okay.
So if somebody is, if has experienced a fire, if somebody has experienced, if they're could be a victim of domestic violence and they're fleeing, if they have been evicted, if they are living with somebody who, and it's not safe for them to be there, and they're doubled up with somebody else, they could call their PPW and have that conversation with them and see if they would qualify to be enrolled as homeless, and then they would be able to get some benefits, to be able to be enrolled as homeless, and then, we would be able to help them at least on the school side, and then give them some resources that they may be able to access.
Okay, thank you.
So you had mentioned also that one of the things that a PPW does is support families that are, support students who are living maybe with other family members through either kinship or hardship. Can you explain what it means if someone's enrolled as kinship or hardship, and what are some of the supports that PPWs offer for those families?
Sure. So a kinship family would be, based on the Code of Maryland, there's some provisions if a family has a hardship and a child would need to live with somebody who's not their parent or legal guardian. For example, if a parent was incarcerated and needed to stay with an aunt, an uncle, or grandparent, and the child would need to go with this person and then be enrolled in school, they could contact the school. The registrar would then contact the PPW, and they would have a conversation with the PPW about this child being enrolled in school. Once the PPW were to do some research and look up this parent, they would see that the parent was then incarcerated, because what the PPW would need is documentation of the reason why this child is now in the care or custody of a non-custodial parent, and then be able to enroll them in school. And so the PPW would then support them by filling out the informal kinship care paperwork, having them state that they're now taking care and custody of this child, and then be able to enroll them in school. That, this doesn't give them any real legal guardianship or custody of this child, but it does allow them to enroll them in school. What we do now in Anne Arundel County, what we've been doing for the last few years, is having some support groups for informal kinship care providers, to really kind of give them some information about how to access medical assistance, how to access and get legal custody of children that they've been caring for, and how really just to give them kind of an outlet, because some are grandparents, some are great-grandparents who've been taking care of kids. They've not been taking care of kids for a long time, and now they have these little kids that they've been taking care of, and give them a venue to kind of discuss that in a safe place. But there is a way to do that, and so we support them in that. And so we are able to do that. But you need your PPW to support you to do that, because there is some paperwork to fill out with that. This does not, but I just want to reiterate that does not give that guardian custody of this child. A parent can still come to the school and say, this is my child, this is the documentation, I want my child back. So you always have to follow up, by getting, legal custody of children.
So before we go to break, could you just talk about what are the reasons that we would enroll a child for kinship care? What are some of the situations that would qualify in terms of a relative taking care and then us enrolling them?
So some of the reasons would be a death of a parent, a medical issue like a severe medical issue. So a doctor would have to say that the parent is severely unable to take care of this child. The parent would have to be either in a psychiatric hospital or in some type of rehabilitation clinic if they're drug involved. The parent would have to have abandoned the child. The parent would have to either be incarcerated, or the parent would have to be in active duty military, and there would have to be orders that they've given permission for you to have this child.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you. Coming up after the break, we will talk more with Ms. Jones about how PPWs support residency, some innovative programs that they have around supporting attendance, and also some of the community partnerships that they have within Anne Arundel County Public Schools.
The Writing on the Walls course was designed to create an exciting experience for students who might not normally consider taking an art course. We examine modern artists in a modern material, and we encourage students to find their voice and tell their story through their work.
Writing on the Walls is such a fun class. It's a fun way to approach art. This was the first time I realized I might have some artistic ability.
You can have fun and don't have to be a super serious artist to enjoy the class.
It's really fast-paced and exciting. I love how our murals turned out.
I was surprised how much fun I had and how I was just really able to express myself through the art.
Find your voice.
Tell your story.
Sign up for this course today.
Storytelling, writing on the walls.
Welcome back to At Your Service. We are having a discussion today with Miss Laurie Jones, the coordinator of Pupil Personnel Workers. So welcome back. And so we were talking a little bit about, you know, the homeless, the kinship, the hardship. But how do PPWs support the whole idea of residency? Because you had mentioned that in your arc.
Mm-hmm. So residency starts at, again, the school level.
Okay.
So if registrars are kind of having a hard time getting documentation, or if a family's having a hard time getting the documentation needed for enrollment, because, you know, one of the primary reasons why PPWs exist is to kind of reduce those barriers for school enrollment, then a PPW may be called to assist. And so right now, like I'll give you an example. So the tenant residency verification forms, or the TRVs, right now they need to be notarized. And so if that's a barrier for a family, we have 5 PPWs right now in the county that are notaries.
Oh, wow.
And so they'll notarize the document for a family if they need that, so that they can go ahead and then enroll a child in school. In Anne Arundel County, we're the only county right now that has in our policy that a PPW can perform 2 unannounced home visits and help a family get some of the documentation needed for school enrollment purposes. So if a family is struggling getting some of those supporting documents, then they can ask the PPW to do those 2 visits and help them get the documents needed for school enrollment. We're the only ones who do that right now. So we realize, we recognize as a system that sometimes our families struggle with those things, and we want to support them doing that. So if a family if a registrar is having some difficulty getting documents from a family, then they may ask the PPW to assist them with getting those documentation. So the residency piece kind of always starts at the school or starts with a family that's in need of getting additional documentation.
Okay, thank you.
What if a family lived out of county and they wanted to attend an Anne Arundel County schools? Is there an option for paying tuition? Okay.
So there's a tuition option. They can pay tuition if the school is open. So we have some open schools and we have some closed schools. If it's a closed school, they would not have the option to pay tuition. But we'll talk about kind of the open and closed schools when we talk about out of areas a little bit later.
Well, that leads us to our next question.
Yeah.
So can you talk about what is an out-of-area transfer and what the process is?
Sure.
For families? So because I know we're coming up to that time when they can apply, so how would they do that if they wanted to apply for that, and what would be the criteria?
Sure. So an out-of-area is really just an application that a parent can apply for an out-of-area if they wanted their child to go to a school that's outside of their own boundaried school. And there is some criteria that they would have to meet. So if they have a professional recommendation, which means that they have something from a medical provider or a therapist that says that their child, for whatever reason, cannot go to their zoned home school and would benefit better to go to a different school. If they have moved into the area, or if they're moving out of the attendance area, if they are the child of a full-time employee and they're an Anne Arundel County resident, if it's a daycare issue with a hardship, then they can apply for this out of area. Right? The other caveat is that the school has to be open, as I said earlier. Now, what I would recommend people do first is go to our website, www.aacps.org/outofarea, and look at the frequently asked questions to see if you qualify. Look at the open-closed list to see if the school that you're requesting is an open school. If it's a closed school, that means that they are over capacity. which means that there's too many kids at this school, right, already. And so if the school is already over capacity, the likelihood that you're going to be able to allow your child to go there is very slim to none, all right? And so you just have to make sure that what you're requesting, they can accommodate you for. You know, we want to be able to support, you know, families and support students, but we also want to make sure that the kids that are already in this school, you know, we can accommodate for them as well.
And you had mentioned a professional recommendation, and if a parent is able to get a professional recommendation, does that mean they automatically are going to be approved for an out-of-area?
No, that's just one part of the criteria. So the open window for an out-of-area is March 1st through May 1st. If it's a professional recommendation, all of those professional recommendations come to the board. So I review all of the professional recommendations. Those also have to come with a assigned consent form for us to be able to talk with the therapist or talk to the doctor to get additional information if necessary, so that we can kind of get a clear understanding of what your needs are. It also doesn't mean that you're going to get your requested school. If it's something that's really needed for your child and there's another school that might be, you know, open and that can accommodate, you know, we may offer you that. Also with these requests, transportation is not provided. The transportation is on the parent to provide. So these are all just things to kind of think about when you're asking or when you're requesting, you know, these changes for schools.
Well, that makes it pretty clear, you know, having that form and the structures and explaining to parents that transportation will not be provided. That, you know, because I think sometimes things get, you know, misconstrued and people don't have all the facts. So I appreciate that. And I know that your PPWs are really working on some innovative programs to help students, I guess that whole stability piece that you were talking around attendance. Can you talk a little bit about some of the programs that the PPWs are offering students?
Sure. So one of our really great programs is the RAT program. It's the Responsible Actions Attendance Program. We've been doing that for almost 5 years now. And it's a 6-week program, which sometimes we do it as a 1-day program. And we have, sometimes we actually have it court ordered through Judge Spencer, who we actually have our truancy docket I'll talk about in a minute as well. And we have our parents who have been experiencing some truancy issues, and they come with their kids, and they you know, we have them meet in groups, and they talk about, you know, some communication barriers. They talk about what some of the barriers are for attendance. They work on some discipline plans. They work on goal setting, really to kind of, you know, just have a place every week that they just meet and talk one-on-one to kind of work on what some of the issues are and why there's some barriers. We even set them up. We have some service providers come out, you know, Thrive, Jiffy, you know, to come and offer their services to see if there's anything that they can access as a way to, you know, the PPW has probably offered these services before, but maybe now they're more receptive to, you know, getting these services and you know, now they'll sign up for it, you know. And what we found with these, you know, these 6-week courses in the evenings, and we offer them dinner, is that the kids love this one-on-one time with their parents. You know, sometimes we get so busy in the day-to-day, and we're, you know, they're not going to school and we're arguing and there's so much going on, is that we forget, you know, as parents, that, you know, sometimes that one-on-one time is what they're missing a little bit. And so those have become so popular, and you know, but we've gotten so big with it, we've had to sometimes do the 1-dayers in the summer just to kind of get them all in, because our truancy docket has also become kind of really big. And so our truancy docket we set up with Judge Spencer, who has been amazing working with us through the district court. That's our other program. What we did with our truancy docket is, before, when we would file charges, we could get any judge in the courthouse, And he said, we kind of, had some issues with that. And so he said, well, I'll work with you guys if you just wanted one judge, which we think is more beneficial. If we see the same judge who kind of knows, what PPWs do, knows that we've been working with these families, knows that, we kind of just need somebody who really cares about these kids and cares that there's some consistency, right, with the process. And so he said that he would do it, and he signed on for it. And so now we have a dedicated docket in the court system. We are seen twice a month, either in Glen Burnie Courthouse or the Annapolis Courthouse. We have service providers come 30 minutes before where our docket is set, and everybody's on the same page as far as what's going on. And he comes to every single the first RAP session, and he talks to parents and he tells them exactly, what the law is and what his role is when they come to court. And he mandates some families to come to RAP, which has really kind of helped, So those are two of our programs. Another program that I really do want to highlight is our Power of One mentoring program for our unaccompanied homeless youth. We have some juniors and seniors who are paired with mentors who really help them with, navigating their junior and senior year, because these are our, some of our most vulnerable kids who don't have anybody, with them to help them, figure out what they're going to do in their next phase of their lives. And they do some really awesome things. They've been on, college tours. They've been helping them, with interviews, resume writing. They do some really fun activities. They've been, they went to see Harriet, and talked about, they had some little activity after that and talked about communication styles and, how to handle different diversity in the workplace. And so I think they've been doing some really great things. And so I just wanted to highlight that program as well.
Yes, they are. That's awesome.
So PPWs obviously from this discussion rely on community partnerships. You've touched on it a little bit in some of the programs. What are some other community partnerships that PPWs rely on in terms of supporting families, and some of the barriers that they have to attendance and academic success?
Some of the other partners that we work with, one of the ones that we just started working with that has really been great and has been Bricket, which is a new one. And they've really been helping us with a lot of our families who have struggled with housing. Cricket has been a good one.
Have you worked with Legal Aid?
Legal Aid has been a really good one. Actually, they've been working a lot also with us with our kinship support group. As well as the health department. Kenya Sampson has really been great with helping us with getting medical assistance for a lot of our families. Strengthening Families is always helping with us with our kids.
Can you tell us more about Strengthening Families?
Strengthening Families is a 16. They're actually through Department of Social Services, and they do a 16-week group. And so they meet all the time with families, and they provide transportation. They also do dinner, but they're a really good support group and network. They meet in the home. They do budgeting. They can provide parenting classes for their families as well that participate in the program. And so they kind of do wraparound services as well with families. So families that kind of get into their programs, find a lot of success with them as well.
Good. So before we close out, can you just tell us if a parent wants to access their PPW, what should they do?
So if they want to access a PPW, I think the best thing to do is call our office, and we'll be able to direct them to their direct number.
Okay.
So you can call us at 410-222-5284. Again, 410-222-5284. You can ask for myself or Dee Dee Brown, and then we'll give you the number to your PPW.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been very informative, and I'm sure informative to the viewers out there. So we just want to thank you and look forward to talking to you again soon. So that's all we have for today at your service. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time.
Hi, I'm Wiley Baker. Join me later today for Anne Arundel County Public Schools Athletes in Action right here on AACPS TV.